dear viewers, and welcome to RTD's English News Edition. Here are our top stories. The Ministry of Muslim Affairs reached the final stage of its tour in the northern of the country. In the international news, fifth day of ecologist mobilization. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The Production and Exchanges Committee met on Thursday, April 18, in Committee Room 1 of the National Assembly, chaired by the Honorable Anglais Ismail Gedi Hared. The agenda of the working session was to examine the draft law number 45 on strategic orientation for the development and promotion of tourism in the Republic of Djibouti. The meeting was attended by Mr. Hassan Mohammed Ibrahim, Minister Delegate to the Minister of Economy and Finance in charge of Trade, Tourism and Formalization. The purpose of the draft law on the strategic orientation of tourism is to give concrete expression on the vocation of tourism to play a key role in the country's economic development. This approach is in line with Vision 2035 set up by the government of the Republic of Djibouti, initiated by His Excellency the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh. This project aims to integrate our country into the international market through, in particular, the professionalization of the sector, the adoption of new management methods, and the encouragement of partnerships open to private capital. The Minister of Health, Dr. Jamal Al-Mawki, gathered on Wednesday morning in his office all the chief doctors of the community health centers and the chief doctors of the regions. The meeting allowed the various heads of health structures to discuss several subjects and discuss the difficulties faced by some of our fellow citizens during their time in the health structures. The meeting was attended by the Secretary General Dr. Saleh Benoit Turab, Director of Health Regions Ahmed Said Assowi, and several senior officials from the Ministry of Health. The subject discussed at this meeting were the availability of medicine, the malaria epidemic, which is declining in importance, the availability of human resources in all medical facilities, and finally, the Minister of Health, Dr. Jamal Al-Mawki, gave clear guidelines for the success and proper functioning of first and second level health structures, and focusing on the quality and quantity of supplies to be provided to the populations of Djibouti City and the interior regions, as well as the implementation of a quarterly action plan. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, and the President of Education Relief Foundation, Sheikh Mansour bin Musallam, had a working meeting with the Joint Technical Committee in charge of implementing the pilot project on inclusive and balanced education. The meeting was attended by MENFOB Secretary General Mohammed Abdullah Mahyoub, as well as senior MENFOB officials and managers and Director of Plans and Programs for the ERF, John Manuel. It was an opportunity for the President of ERF and the Ministry to get in touch with the committee and get a clear idea of their work schedule. After the presentation, the members of the committee presented their conception of the mission entrusted to them, as well as the work schedule they have set for themselves in accordance with the agenda of MENFOB and ERF in the implementation of the pilot project on balanced and inclusive education for the benefit of school students in our country. And as part of the preparation for the Third World Forum for Inclusive and Balanced Education, the President of the Education Relief Foundation, Sheikh Mansour bin Musallam, and the Secretary General of MENFOB, Mohammed Abdullah Mahyoub, launched the work of the Interministerial Committee responsible for organizing this major event to be held in Djibouti in January 2020. Composed of senior executives from various ministries, this committee has a mission of the utmost importance, since it will have to ensure the perfect material and logistical organization of this summit, which will bring together nearly 300 participants from more than 150 countries. The committee members then had discussions with the ERF president to better understand the vision, missions, and objectives of the Foundation for Educational Assistance. The Minister of Muslim Affairs, Culture and Waqfs, Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre, visited Tajora at the final stage of its tour in the regions. The Minister and the members of his delegation were warmly welcomed by the authorities and residents of the Tajora region, accompanied by Director of Diwan and Waqfs of Properties, Ilmi Noor Jama, and Director of Diwan al-Zaka, Suleiman Hussein, Director of Culture, Duali Hassan Ahmed, as well as senior officials of his department. The Minister of Muslim Affairs sponsored the ceremony to distribute the zakat and the third batch of sponsorship fees for the year 2018. And at the end of the ceremony, the minister and other officials handed over envelopes to a few orphans beneficiaries of this last sponsorship batch for the year 2018. Another important activity still in the city of Tujora, Minister Mumin Hassan Barre also launched the work of an awareness-raising workshop on the enhancement of the national intangible cultural heritage. These meetings aim to identify ancestral cultural practices, brought together traditional chiefs, religious leaders, craftswomen, young people, and other actors from traditional backgrounds. The Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, has delivered a speech during these two events regarding the launch of Diwan al-Zakah and in particular the last installment of the 2018 sponsorship contributions. Mumin Hassan Barre did not forget to remind that Diwan al-Zakah, which in few years became the foundation of mutual aid, was created thanks to the tireless efforts of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh. He also stressed that the success of this institution stems from direct and above all constant involvement of the country's highest authorities. On the launch of the work of an awareness-raising workshop on the enhancement of the national intangible cultural heritage, Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre urged the population to participate massively in this vast consultation as part of the national cultural policy development process. He then recalled the definitions of the multiple aspects of the cultural heritage before reviewing the achievements initiated by the executive in safeguarding the cultural traditions of the Djiboutian people. The Director of Hydrocarbons, accompanied by Mr. Abani Boulay for the firm ABE and representing the certifying bodies Bureau Veritas, Socotex, and Firex, and Mahmoud Noor, member of the firm ABE, carried out inspections of the service stations as part of the process of bringing the supply and distribution of fuel in the Republic of Djibouti into line with current fire and environmental safety standards. The Hydrocarbons Directorate, in collaboration with the Cabinet Council Management as for the Prevention, APE, and approved specialist in fire risk management and standards certification, is responsible for carrying out the study on fire risk assessment at all service stations in the national territory from 16 to 18 April 2019. In addition, the provisions of 17 August 2009 require public administrations, state institutions, and private companies that have the status of public reception facilities to acquire approved fire equipment in order to further protect the population from possible risk of fire. On its side, the Director of Hydrocarbons, Mr. Wahib Ali Bulo, to underline the importance of such an operation for the safety of the citizens, he also indicated that a report on the situation will be drafted to inform the highest authorities in the country of the current situation. In the Khil now, implementation of the DSC program, the Ministry of Labor in charge of administration reform through its Executive Secretary in charge of administration reform has launched a vast program aimed at improving the performance of the administration, but also at making it competitive in order to adapt it to the current social and economic policies of our country. In this sense, the ambitious program supported by the Canadian expert who has provided training for SECRA staff requires the latter for the generalized in order to implement the entire administration of the Republic. This program, commonly known as DSC, Declaration of Citizen Service, is a document in which all the commitments of the Djibouti administration are set out to meet the aspirations of the Djiboutian population. SECRA began a tour in the prefect of Djibouti City from 7 to 10 April 2019 in order to train and sensitize the staff of the Djibouti sub-prefect and at the same time to set up within this administration. However, currently this program is well established within the central administration. It is essential to implement this project in the regional administration so that this project becomes general and global. In the context of the fight against illicit trafficking of the contraband goods, the Baas Army, in close collaboration with customs, intercepted a large amount of contraband in the Warabile sector near the Asajak city. The smuggled goods are composed of 10 packages of 6 kilos of cat that the customs teams and the Army Security Squadron proceeded to destroy these goods in the presence of the head of the Customs Brigade of the region, Mr. Idris Ahmed Bulhan. Custom officials and Baas Army forces have decided to take firm actions against cat smugglers who compete unfairly with formal market actors and thus harm the national economy. Obituary, we regret to inform you the death of the late Omar Osman Girre, who died yesterday in Djibouti. Born in 1945, the deceased left behind 4 children and several grandchildren, including Abdul Majid Omar Girre, advisor to the Minister of Labor. The Minister of Communication in charge of Postal and Telecommunications, Mr. Abdi Yusuf Suge, the Minister of Labor and Administrative Reform, Mr. Hassan Idris Samire, the Prefect of the Ali Sibih region, Mr. Muhammad Wabri Asowi, the Advisor to the Minister of Communication, Abdi Ali Hussein, Director of the RTD, Mrs. Suad Farah Dawe, expressed their sincere condolences to the family of the deceased. May the Almighty welcome him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Moving on to the international news, London, 5th day of mobilization of environmentalists. A human chain around a ship stranded on Oxford Circus in the heart of London. On the 5th day of their mobilization, environmental activists once again tried to make their mark, occupying the media field with acts of civil disobedience and forcing the British government to do more for the environment. And this is the challenge of the Rebellion Exchange Group, which is responsible for these occupations on several iconic sites in London. And on Friday, they were joined by a strong support team, actress Emma Thompson. Since Monday, these actions in the British capital have resulted in nearly 600 arrests. Afghanistan new suicide attacks in Kabul. Kabul is again the target of a suicide attack after several weeks of relative calm in Afghanistan. The Ministry of Communication was attacked this morning by at least 4 attackers. An explosion and gunfire were heard for nearly an hour. 6 people were injured, according to initial assessment. This attack comes at a time when a meeting between the Taliban and Afghan government officials was cancelled to the last minute the day before. It was to be held in Doha, Qatar. Well, that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on Radio Television of Djibouti and have a good night.